Indian soldiers, 1,000 Indian soldiers, they were killed or wounded there. And those people were liberated. And the main man in that was Major Dalpat Singh Sakhawa. He was from another side, Jodhpur, actually. In Jodhpur, and he played the major part. And afterwards, he was honored by the Queen of the Singh, because at that time British people were there, British Army. So he was from the British Army. 1918, 1918, on 23rd September, it was liberated. Haifa was liberated. So we still they celebrate Haifa Day in Israel in honor of Indian soldiers. And the Israeli people, they go and offer flowers or the things in their graves. The Indian soldiers are there.
Do our governments celebrate or no?
They will never do. Muslim, they are after the Muslims. If they celebrate Muslim, will kill them, you know. They will lose votes.
Another Modi ji ba? Another Modi ji ba?
Aye.
62% है
आ गया और जरूर आ गए
आएंगे तो नहीं लेकिन
आगे
आज तो थोड़ा आगे
एक्चुअली
बेस्ट लगा था लेकिन बेस्ट लगाना भी दो यूजर
नहीं आगे
सो
see you. Oh, yeah, provided. You said yes. Oh, thank you. Nice. Yeah, you came 2 days back, right? Last time? Oh. Second year.
23rd was my flight, and I arrived
sorry, so quick thing, you know, when you was there,
we just took advantage of your brief stay over here.
I'm at New York service. Quickly I come.
ऐसा बहुत मैंने परीक्षा मतलब तय किया है जो मतलब शेखर जी उसको चर्चा करेंगे
ये आप इसको कराइए
मैं करता हूं
नहीं बस आप पे जो
ये 5 मिनट रुक जाते हैं
ये बैक भेजे लगाएंगे 7:30
So I'll just give you some overview of what we do over here. As you know that last time I had mentioned to you some brief outline of our association. That is, it's called as Hindu Swayam Sevak Sangh, HSS.
Yeah, this is HSS, yeah.
And it's a part of the Rashtriya Swayam Sevak Sangh, RSS, that in India, you know, the big parent association that you know, RSS.
They also came to
They came for
the
the sports day.
sports day. That
Correct,
was also
the same thing.
yeah, but there you have many children.
Exactly.
Families and children.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we have different activities. This activity is basically catered towards people who are like, you know, sort of business profile or, you know, that sort of thing. And it's not, you wouldn't find so many children or women. Because most of them are from the business, business community over here. So we meet every Wednesday. From that, the second Wednesday of every month is prominent because we have, like, you know, many people who cannot make it every Wednesday. They will always make it a point to come the second Wednesday of the month, you know. So that's something which is like, you know, sort of today is not, because you did not come on second Wednesday.
Yeah.
No,
But which month?
Every month. Every second Wednesday of the month.
Which month?
No.
Lunar month.
Yeah. The present is the solar calendar. I mean, it's a calendar. Western calendar.
Yeah, just that.
So that's fixed, like 12 Wednesdays every year we have a big crowd, like, you know, people who cannot come every single Wednesday, they'll still make it a point to come on the second Wednesday of the month. So that's the basic idea. So over here, like in our son, as you can see the pictures over there, normally we always highlight the picture of
Let him see them.
Which is considered as the incarnation of Devi, incarnation of Lakshmi, incarnation of Durga. As you know, actually, Professor is an expert also in Vande Mataram. He has also done research on Pankaj Chattopadhyay, so he knows a lot about other part.
I just finished a course teaching Mula things.
And those 5 photos you see there, 5 photos is that. And they were our Saraswati Chalakis, they were from our organization. Worldwide, they are the head. They were the head.
The ex-president, the presidents.
Ex-president of the whole organization.
The one in the left with a black color cap and white mustache, he is the founder of this RSS. He founded it in 1925.
This is
Dr. Hedgewan, yes. So Dr. Hedgewan, he founded RSS in 1925. So he was the first president from 1925 to 1940. During this period, RSS expanded, but the real person responsible for RSS massive growth is the one, what do you call it, to the right, parallel to Dr. G. His name is Guru Golwalkar. He was the next president of RSS from 1940 to 1973. So it was his 33 years. He was very dynamic. Finally, he got cancer and he succumbed to it. But actually, he was extremely active. He would travel frequently. He would always be on the move. And it was his vision that sometimes he said, okay, fine, people cannot come to Shaka, we will go to them. So he established innumerable number of organizations, connected in different fields, like Vishwa Hindu Parishad.
That was established in 1964.
1964 or 65, I think. 64. In Chidmaya Ashram in Mumbai.
With the Swami Chiranand.
Swami Chiranand for the three founders.
So that was in this time.
In his time. He was the person with a vision that we have to, in every single sphere, we have to be there. So that's why that we have in the labor, we have, like, for example, in the university students, Akhil Bharatiya Vidyarthi Parishad, ABVP, is the largest student association in the country. That also has all RSS affiliated people. Then there is in the labor, for example, Bharatiya Mazdoor Sangh. So these people in Bharatiya Mazdoor Sangh, for example, they are not communist affiliated. For example, they don't give so much importance to May 1 Labor Day. Rather, they consider Vishwakarma Day, which is so in that respect, a lot of things like a lot of clear vision from like even working in the tribal areas. Like for example, once upon a time, tribal belt was considered as only for Christian missionaries. So not many people would go over there. Somehow we also were at fault. They did not go in that area. But Guruji, so Guruji was the one who realized this, and he established Nivasi Kalyan Ashram, which works in tribal areas and so on. So it was in every single sphere you can find artists and activities going on. So it was the vision of Guruji.
I have also something to use. So that just now, recently, a new journal of Dharma studies was launched in the US. And that's mainly by Hindu scholars.
Dharma studies.
Dharma studies.
Okay.
Of course, Dharma traditions, the first four traditions, Buddhism, Jainism, Sikhism.
Yeah, sorry, sir. Yes, please.
If
you don't mind.
Forces are the Hindu force, the American Hindu Foundation of people, and these are
You want the Roman company, if you want somebody that call.
No, I think in voice recorder, but that is something else.
Okay, yes.
Yeah, and just established just now.
Okay.
And Professor very famous Purushottam Vigimoyan is also one of the two head editors. So very good. Yeah, just I'm also a member of the editorial board of that journal.
Very good. Excellent. तो परिचय दूंगा या अपना परिचय दें या बाकी लोग के लिए वेट करें
नहीं because doing this during समय.
Okay. So I think because we start your talks in 5 minutes, so I just thought maybe in the meantime we can just get to know everybody over here. Just a brief introduction, the name, how long you've been coming to Shaka, and what is your what do you do at the present moment?
My name is Haifa Day and I'm associated with the president over here since 1969. I've been coming to Shaka since 1970, but my family is associated since 1947. Then I was during the partition. So how regular we are.
A brief profile. And about some medical
I entered the Shaka when I was only 10 years old. Now I'm 18.
81 and he was the president here in Hong Kong for 30 years, 40 years. For 30 years he was the president of this organization, Hindu Samsevak Sangh. Now he is the social worker. He is doing social things.
Well, I'm celebrated from 60 years. Yeah, about Bombay.
Economic job since 1955 to Shaka. Now I'm in Hong Kong. And retired, just like semi-retired businessman.
My name is Govind. I'm a businessman. My association with the Sound is for the last year. I'm trying to learn my ways.
Yeah, well, he is the most youngest Samsevak.
Yes.
Namaste, my name is Deepak Kumar. I have been coming to Shaka since 1991 when I came to Hong Kong. 22 years. And earlier I had in India we were favoring the Shaka, but I didn't go over there like. But my family was connected always, and I'm doing my own business.
And what type you have got here?
Yeah, here I am Bauddhic Pramukh, like for the children.
Bauddhic, you know Bauddhic?
From Buddhi, the word Sanskrit word Buddhi, right?
Knowledge.
Bauddhic.
Knowledge.
Bauddhic.
Knowledge for the children or for the programs we present. I collect all the information and distribute to them.
Intellectual.
Yes.
My name is Venkat. I work for a trading company here. I'm associating for the past 10 years here.
Joshi,
Myself, Pushkar Hemanta Joshi. I am Sangha Swayamsevak from childhood. My father, grandfather are all Sangha Swayamsevak. So the family was.
but he lives in India. He is here for
I am
business too.
residing in India.
He is visiting from India.
I am here for BlackBerry event.
Blackberry.
Namaste, Mongani. I've been in Hong Kong since 43 years and been a swimsaver since 1983. And I'm the vice president of HSS.
He was a director of
Sandesh Bhakti, yeah.
My name is JP Goel. I'm here also same thing. 1984 I think so I came in contact here in Hong Kong. And presently I'm the president of this organization in Hong Kong. And I'm 85 years old. चलिए लगाए
हाँ वो बताऊंगा मेरे पास वो बना हुआ है।
बाद में ये है हमारे यस आप अपना इंट्रोड्यूस कर दिया
और सुनाइए
क्या बोलते हैं बिजनेसमैन
He's a local businessman and he's been in
ठीक हुआ
in
बोला फिर हो गया
since 7 years.
ठीक हुआ बोला फिर हो गया ये कैसे हो गया
चलिए जहाँ पे है वैसे खड़े खड़े होकर कर
अपनी
ले
जगह पे हाइट पर ही है बस अपनी जगह पे
या खड़े होकर कर ले
जहाँ बैठ
No,
कर
he just voiced the fact. This is
समझ आई
संदक्ष आरम संदक्ष दश प्रणाम 1 2 3 आरम उपाविश.
So in our sum, we consider the saffron flag as the symbol, and it's as a rule. Throughout history, the saffron flag, the Bhagavad has always been here, whether it's Ramayana, Mahabharata, or Vedic period. Yeah. So we take opacity.
स्पीच रिकॉर्ड करना चाहिए.
Correct, sir?
रिकॉर्ड करने के लिए
So I'll just give some overview of the program. Namaskar and the warm welcome for attending today's event. Every year, the Indian Army commemorates 23rd September as Haifa Day to pay its respects to the brave Indian soldiers of the cavalry regiments of Jodhpur, Mysore and Hyderabad Lancers who helped liberate Haifa city. These soldiers exhibited exemplary skills and bravery in a successful cavalry charge which finally freed Haifa after 400 years of slavery under the Ottoman rule. This is how the official history of the war, that is military operations Egypt and Palestine, Volume 2, describes the heroic Indian soldiers. And I quote over here, no more remarkable cavalry action of its age was fought in the whole course of the campaign. Machine gun bullets over and over again failed to stop the galloping horses, even though many of them succumbed afterwards to their injuries. This is a recording, this is the official statement from one of the official history of war, that the bravery of the Indian soldiers was so intense that even though they were being, so many machine gun bullets were being fired from all directions, still they did not stop. Captain Aman Singh Bahadur and Lahat Jor Singh were awarded the Indian Order of Merit, and Captain Anup Singh and Second Lieutenant Sagat Singh were awarded the Military Cross as recognition for their bravery in this battle. Major Dalpat Singh Shekhawat is known in the annals of history as the hero of Haifa and was awarded a Military Cross for his bravery. These and other Indian soldiers now figure in history textbooks in Israel for their remarkable contributions towards the liberation of Haifa. Since 2010, as a part of the Haifa Day celebrations that take place every year on 22nd September in Haifa, a ceremony is also held to remember those 900 Indian soldiers who laid down their lives for the city. The first such event had been marked by a wreath-laying ceremony by Indian Ambassador to Israel, Shri Naftej Sarna, who had thanked the Haifa Historical Society for its untiring efforts to document India's role. A two-member Indian Army delegation led by Colonel M.S. Jodha, who also happens to be the grandson of Aman Singh Bahadur. Yeah, who's the grandson? So he was the one who also attended that ceremony in 2010. So it was quite nostalgic for him because his grandfather was one of the liberators of Haifa city. We are fortunate to have with us the most distinguished Professor Itmar Theodore, Director of the Program for Hindu-Jewish Studies in the University of Haifa, our chief guest and speaker, who will elaborate more on the role played by the Indians and the Haifa Day celebrations. So we're very fortunate to have someone of such a great scholarly repute, plus a person who also is living in Haifa, is working in Haifa. You also live over there or nearby? Okay, so we're very fortunate that it's quite it's a very good coincidence for us. Professor Itmar has served as former visiting professor at the Chinese University of Hong Kong and is the author of the book Exploring the Bhagavad Gita, Philosophy, Structure and Meaning, which received the Choice Outstanding Academic Title Award for 2011. He is a distinguished scholar and an expert in Hindu philosophy, Hindu and Chinese comparative study, as well as Hindu and Jewish comparative study. Today he will also speak on the course that he conducts at the University of Haifa and the response of his students towards India in general and Hinduism in particular. Dear Professor is a very good friend of mine. He had encouraged me to give talks at the continuing education program of Chinese University of Hong Kong. So by his blessings and grace, I had given 2 talks on Ramayana and Mahabharata. And Professor Itmarji is also very acquainted with Rabiji. Rabiji had recently gone to Israel, and he had Professor Itmarji and Rabiji had been together, and he will also detail more about Rabiji's visit in Israel. So, not taking more time, I would invite Professor Ji to give the talk.
Hare Krishna, Mr. Krishna. Sorry, I am from, you said, Haifa.
Haifa is a city in Israel.
Haifa city is not port city. It's a port city.
It's a port city.
City is mainly
Northern Israel. Northern Israel.
It's the main port. Raman, the Persian Raman.
I would say a few words about the beginning of Haifa. To me, it was 1981. I was much younger, and there was an ISKCON branch in Haifa. Hare Krishna.
81, way back.
1981. And I came there and I joined ISKCON in Haifa in 1981. So that's how I kind of got involved with Haifa. And since then, I've been a devotee, Hare Krishna devotee in ISKCON, serving in Israel, Haifa, and other places. And later, I became a professor of Hindu studies. And I made it my life mission to teach Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam as an academic. Yeah, that's my life. Seva, as the Gita says, Yaidam Paramam Guyam Mad Bhakti Shobidasyati Bhakti Mai Param Kritva Mam Evashyati Shamshya. Means that whoever teaches gives knowledge. We're talking about giving knowledge, and giving knowledge, that is, Krishna is very pleased with this form of bhakti. And so I see it as my life service to teach knowledge of the Gita, of Dharma, and in this way do some good things to the world. So ISKCON here in Hong Kong opened this project of the Professorship of Indian Religions and Culture at the Chinese University of Hong Kong some 6 years ago, in 2007. And that was opened with a view of teaching Hinduism, teaching Dharma, teaching Vedic scriptures here in Hong Kong and Bayonne. So I came to teach in this project. When I came here, I got in touch with Sri K.P. Daswani. We became friends. And actually, when I wanted to establish the Hindu-Jewish program in Haifa, I went to KPG. And together we were kind of thinking about this idea of how to do that. So in many ways, the initiative for this program came here from Hong Kong. Hong Kong is a very dynamic place. You can get things happen here. Things are happening quickly. People close in the business world, but also in the intellectual world. Things are moving here. You know that. So in many ways, we kind of opened that here. So with a KPG, we approached a good friend who was a businessman, and he helped us to open that, and went to the University of Haifa and made the various arrangements, and the program was initiated just 2 years ago in 2011, and it was considered to be a program of Hindu-Jewish studies. Now you can ask, what is this Hindu-Jewish thing? And I would say that for many years there was hardly a Hindu-Jewish dialogue. Just everyone was living in different spheres. And about probably 10 years ago or less, Hindus and Jews started fighting each other. It happened through conventions, through meetings, through conferences, and they started to develop a Hindu-Jewish fraternity. You may ask, why is that? And I think there are various reasons for that. I think in many ways Hinduism and Judaism is close in that these are two very ancient, very developed cultures which are world religions out of which other cultures sprung. If you look at Hinduism, in many ways this is one of the founding cultures of Asia. I mean, Buddhism came out of Hinduism, Buddhism, then Jainism came out of Hinduism too. And if you look at Buddhism, it covered all of Asia and beyond. And when Bharat's national poet Rabindranath Tagore was touring Asia, he was considering Buddhism to be the cultural glue of Asia coming from India. That's the way he saw Buddhism. He said that's an Indian original culture which went around. So if you like to see Indian influence in China, that's Buddhism. Very clearly, it came here with Sanskrit and with the Indian culture. And when you look at Judaism, you also see a similar founding culture, which was there, and out of Judaism, Christianity came. Christianity was originally considered itself to be Jewish, and Jesus was a Jewish rabbi, and he was considered to be a reformer, and only later the Christian community was considering itself a separate religion. But at first they were not sure. They felt that Jews, a certain sect of Jews, and even Islam, which is completely different and rose in Arabia, Saudi. That's where Islam grew up. Also, Islam adopted some ideas from the Bible, from the Jewish Bible, and considered the Jewish prophets to be Islamic, Islamicized them, like King David and Adam and other prophets became parts of the Islamic canon. So Judaism is the founding culture out of which Christianity was born, and even Islam adopted some ideas from the Jewish canon. So in many ways, this fraternity between Hinduism and Judaism highlights the distinction, this distinct character of these two cultures which influenced the world culture, which are founding cultures, very deep and very detailed cultures, out of which world cultures grew. Also, you can see another form of similarity, and that is the sacrificial culture. If you look at the history of Hinduism, you can see the Vedic stage, where the Vedic sacrifice was more prominent, and then you can see the Bhakti stage, where they say Homa became puja in some ways. And Judaism also has these two phases, that you had the temple in Jerusalem, which was a sacrificial culture, or represented a sacrificial culture, and later that changed into a culture of prayers and studies. Perhaps you can also emphasize the idea of dharma and halakha, which really means smriti, or day-to-day rules and regulations, dharma shastra, which govern human life, various yagyas for Hare Krishna, various yagyas for making progress in life, the whole ashram culture, and that also is similarity with Judaism, where human life is governed by a set of rules which keep society civilized and ethical. So it's not so known. Usually Hinduism was taken by the West for its outstanding philosophy, wonderful ideas, very far-reaching ideas. But usually the West did not adopt so much Vedism, Brahmanism, Dharma as such, but more wanted to identify it with the spiritual aspects, such as yoga, bhakti, and so forth. But Judaism does share with Hinduism this sense of dharma, of ethics, in a very strong way. So all these came together and formed this dialogue. And also, we have to also say that there's another component which I'm always trying to word very carefully. In that, in Israel, you have 80% Jews, and you have minorities, about 20% Arabs, out of them probably 15% Muslims, and 5% of non-Muslim Arabs, and Christians and Jews. And in India, you have a somewhat similar component of about 81% Hindus and 14% Muslims. Now, I'm careful with that because I don't want to highlight this Hindu-Jewish dialogue as an anti-Muslim dialogue. I always try, but I do want to highlight that this dialogue perhaps helps the cultures to find their distinct qualities and highlight their distinct identity as such. That there is being an Israeli and being Jewish is slightly different, and like being Hindu and Indian, this distinction between Hindu culture, Jewish culture, and Israel and India, these political entities which are secular by definition because of some historical reasons, the way they were defined, and the, I would say, cultural components which are coming from a different source. I mean, Hinduism and Judaism. So that also helps to distinction, to highlight special culture. So anyhow, that's a word about this Hindu-Jewish dialogue. And we opened that program. Very quickly, we were invited to the Israeli parliament. That was about a year and a half ago. And in February 2012, and it was a very successful invitation. We were offering a presentation there. And after that, we had a conference, the first Hindu-Jewish conference. Now we're working on the second one. And in all of that, Nirmal Prabhu very kindly introduced me to Sri Raviji, whom I was very happy to meet. You all know he's such a wonderful person, and very kind and very much a gentleman, and also a very good scholar. Very moderate, cultural, knows how to speak with people. And we met here once or twice here in Hong Kong, and to my very happy surprise, he decided to come to Israel to actually take the Hindu-Jewish dialogue forward. And that was a great support for this program. Because like last year, when we had our conference, our Hindu-Jewish conference, all the speakers were Jews, talking about Hinduism and Judaism. But there was no Hindu representative. And I didn't really know how to get through it. So first, I tried to get in touch with Swami Dayananda Saraswati, who came to Haifa to establish this back in 2008. Swami Dayananda actually came to he's the chair of the Dharma Acharya Sabha, and he came to Israel in 2008 to establish this program. They had a big vision of spirituality. So I was trying through Swamiji, through Swami Vijnanand, to perhaps get Swami Dayananda to give us some presentation or invoke auspiciousness or blessing through a video recording which we will be showing in the conference. But it didn't really work. And then Raviji just made it to Israel, as simple as that. He said he's coming and he came. He said and he came. And he came to visit around June. He came for about a week or 10 days or something. And I was quite involved with his visit. And in that visit, he went around to the various, he met everyone. He met Indian, representing the Indian Jewish community, spent much time with Mr. Moses. And that's a whole group of people who grew up in India. A whole history of Indian Jews, 5 communities who have been there for a long time, some say 2,000 to 3,000 years from King Solomon's times, and others came later. Very deep and cultural ties, and always the Hebrew, the Jewish community in India was always protected by the Hindu kings, never persecuted. Horrible history in Europe of Jews being persecuted, and in India they were always protected by the Hindu kings. And there was one instance of persecution. What's that?
Vasco da Gama, right?
Yeah, when the Portuguese they came, they brought these European ideas of anti-Semitism and persecuting the Jews. So the Hindu kings, the rulers, they would protect the Jews from the Portuguese, from the Catholic Portuguese. So a very warm history, and then very prominent Jews in the Indian regime and Indian cultural life, including General Jacobs, who was leading the army, the Indian army in 1971 in Bangladesh, and the famous poet Nissim Ezekiel, and some other prominent Jews contributing to Indian culture and life. So, to my happy surprise, Raviji not only came and met, he also wrote a book about that, and I have a draft of that book, hopefully that will be printed. Quite a book, and really summarized all kinds of information. I mean, he's a scholar, so we set out to write a book, and hopefully that book will be published sooner or later, and we'll be able to see that. So Ravi Kumar actually met with the Israeli, with Indian Jews. Then he met university professors, and they were very impressed by him. They spent much time with him in Tel Aviv. They had 3 scholars meeting him for 3 or 4 hours. They were so fascinated. They felt it's such an important meeting, and to sit down with him more and more. And in the beginning, they phoned me and said, "Oh, we're not sure we have time." I said, "You decide." And then they got into that. They just sat with him for a long time, and they were very impressed. He also came to Haifa, and I also took him and his other associate who came with him. I don't remember his name. He came with another associate from the Sangha from India, from Mumbai, who's a journalist.
I read I can't remember the name also, yeah, but it was mentioned.
We came together there. I spent a day with them in Haifa, and I took them. They want to see that spot where the cemetery is of the Indian soldiers, and where the ceremony takes place. And it's true, I participated in these ceremonies. I went twice since 2010. So I think I went there in 2011 and 2012. It's a big ceremony, very formal. You have the Indian ambassador speaking. You have representative of the Israeli government. You have a representative of all kinds of embassies, all formally dressed. I mean, you have, and they all come and offer the garlands to the memory of the Indian soldiers, Indian heroes, and all come. You see the Belgian, the German, I don't know, one after another, French, and they call them, they go all dressed in their uniforms and do that. Then you have Indian army soldiers performing full martial army ceremony, you know, and Israeli army, and I mean it's quite an impressive ceremony, and that takes place every year around September 23rd, which is Haifa Day, and it should take place now. I think it's next week on October 1st, or I'm not sure. It's this week. It's supposed to happen this week.
Oh, it's not fixed, is it? They don't have a fixed
So
date.
they do it, I think, on Fridays usually.
Oh, okay.
It's a Friday event. It's not on the day.
Okay.
It's a few days back and forth.
Okay.
Whatever. But they take it very seriously. Haifa municipality is producing the whole event, and it's quite an impressive event. And the battle itself was a very fierce battle, and the Indian soldiers, by the way, both Hindus, Sikhs and Muslims, you have all kinds of soldiers, and they're buried in two separate places. You have two memorials, one for the Hindu Sikhs, I think, and one for the Muslim soldiers. It's all there, and they're all buried. I mean, they're buried in that cemetery, and you have this memorial. And this was indeed a very fierce battle, and the Indian soldiers were fighting within the British Army, and they were fighting the Turkish powers, and it was a very distinct battle known in the history. I think this was the last cavalry battle of the First World War. And as you mentioned before, they were charging against the machine guns also, and they were actually showing the highest bravery, and they did liberate Haifa from the Ottoman powers. And in many ways, I just saw a movie recently about the events following that. Of course, that didn't create Israel, but it actually gave Israel to a British mandate after that. But that period, 1917, was a period of utopia, of hope, and at that time the British were very sympathetic to the establishment of a national home in Israel. That's when the Balfour Statement was given in these years. Later years, I would say that the relations with the British rulers became more hostile, and the British became more pro-Arabs. But these years were probably the best years, where Israel was liberated from the Turkish and Ottoman Empire, and in these first years, 1917-18, the British gave a big push to the idea of establishing a national home in Israel. This was before the Second World War and the Holocaust. And the Indian soldiers had a very major part in that, and they're honored by the city of Haifa, by the city of Israel, in this Haifa Day celebrated by the Indian Army. And I think Raviji had some idea of going to participate in the ceremony next week. I don't know if he's going. I'm not in touch with him, but is he going to Israel next week?
No, I'm not sure.
He hasn't spoken about it.
Yeah.
We've been in deep touch with him, but he has not mentioned anything about his going. I'm not sure.
I hope that he will come for our Hindu-Jewish conference and speak there.
No, he will come.
That's what I hope. You see, in this ceremony, it's all according to protocol. Everyone, I mean, you have all the politicians speak and the army, and you know, just to be around, to speak there, you have to be in the list of the embassy. And the embassy, the embassy is the embassy.
Yes.
The embassy is the embassy. Let's leave it like that. I have very good relations with the Indian embassy, both here and in Israel, very good relations. But if I promote some ideas which are too Hindus, usually the embassy people would say we like it on a personal basis, but we cannot.
Same here.
Yeah. I remember having an Indian ambassador a few years ago, and I said I really want to establish Goshala, cow protection in Israel. Goshala, I still want. And he said that was the former ambassador before Natisar. And he said, I love this idea, I think it's great, but as an official ambassador, I cannot support something which is so distinct Hindu, although personally I may come and support, but not as an official. So I have to say that when I established this program, I was very consciously calling it the Hindu-Jewish program. And there was some mild pressures, you can say, from various directions, saying, why not call it the Indian-Israeli fraternity program? Why Hindu-Jewish? Why not just Israeli and Indian, kind of make it more secular? And I didn't let that pressure. I said, that's the way we want to do it. We want that Hindu-Jewish fraternity, that kind of scholarship. And I know that the categories, the secular categories of the states, but they actually want Hinduism and Judaism to actually be the categories. And right now, I'm finishing to edit a book here in Hong Kong with a professor here at Chinese University of Hong Kong about Indo and Chinese comparative studies, which you mentioned. And hopefully, with your blessings, the next book, the next big project after that will be an international book on Hindu-Jewish studies, in which we will try to have chapters about this Hindu and Jewish culture. So, I don't know, you asked me to speak for 30 minutes till 8 o'clock, which is now. I usually try to keep my time. I'm careful about time and people's time. And back to you.
Anybody have any questions to ask about the program that Professor Marji has in Israel, or anything else to do with Raviji's visit or Haifa Week? Any questions anybody has? Yeah, Harish.
I would like to know, like, you're talking about the Hindu-Jewish conference, what you just mentioned. Can you give us more details about when and what is the objective of this conference?
Well, the first conference took place on November 27th, 2012, and I was the organizer of this conference, and I tried to bring together papers which will highlight the fraternity, common themes in both cultures. For example, we had a paper on the Vedas, and the narrative of Matsya Avatar, and the boat, the flood, the Vedic flood, and Tevat Noah, which is the biblical flood, and God saving the creatures. That's, for example, a paper. Or there was another paper about reincarnation in Hinduism and in Kabbalah, some ideas. Then we had paper about Jewish people who became influential in the Indian and Hindu context. For example, the mother in Sri Aurobindo ashram, she was Myra Al-Fasa, she was from Jewish origin, French, Algerian, I think, French, yeah. So we were trying to highlight how we have Jews, I mean, people coming from Jewish origins who are attracted to Hindu spirituality and becoming gurus. Also, that nowadays you have ISKCON famous. Yeah, yeah.
All are Jewish.
All are Jewish.
Not all. But you might. Yeah, like in Mumbai, you have very famous Swami, Ramana Swami.
That's one.
Yeah.
He's your guru, right?
No, my guru, but he's from a Jewish background, and he's very active in Chokri, in the temple in Mumbai. So that was another topic. Then we had some papers. We have papers about the Jewish community in India. This year, probably we will have a panel on the Hindu-Jewish dialogue, and that probably will be organized by a Jewish scholar and rabbi called Alon Goshen Gottstein, and he's going to bring two other rabbis probably, and I very much hope that we'll be able to arrange that Sri Ramaji will also be in that panel. It will be actually a Hindu-Jewish dialogue in the conference, not describing that, but it will actually happen. So I'm already trying to work it out. Let's see if it will work out and everything, and that's the direction we want to have. I also have other papers. I have another. I'm in touch with Hare Krishna Guru, Jagata Swami, who's also from a Jewish origin. He's now writing a book on Hindu and Jewish comparative study. So let's see if we'll be able to get him to come. And we have an American scholar. We'll see. We have all kinds of options. We have an American scholar, professor from Florida University, and she wants to write about the Song of Songs in the Bible and Jayadeva Goswami's Gita Govinda. Yeah. So she wants to write about this. I may also offer a paper. I want to offer a paper on ethics, and I have to see how to develop that. But I take in Judaism you have the 10 Commandments, which are the basic ethical tenets, and I very much the way I see it in Hinduism is also something similar to the 10 Commandments, which is universal ethics, and these are the 10 principles of Yama and Niyama. Yama and Yama. Yama, Ahimsa, non-violence, and Satya, truth, and Asteya, non-stealing, Brahmacharya, celibacy, and Aparigraha, non-accumulation, and Shocha, purity, Santosha, satisfaction, Tapas, austerity, Svadhyaya, self-study, self-realization, and Ishvara Paridhanam. Now, if you take the first 5 elements of Yama, Ahimsa, and Satya, Asteya, Brahmacharya, and Aparigraha, you can see that 5 of the 10 commandments are very, very similar. You have 5 commandments. You have thou shalt not kill, which is like Ahimsa, non-violence. And you have thou shalt not lie, Satya, and you should not covet your neighbor's wife, which is like corresponding to Brahmacharya, if you like, sexual purity, and do not steal, and Asteya, all the same, and do not be greedy, Aparigraha. So I'm thinking to perhaps develop that in Hindu ethics and Jewish ethics, and highlight this combination of the principles of Yama and these 5 commandments. We'll see. Anyhow, we'll see. The main thing is that dialogue is going on and it's alive. And last year when we finished the conference, we were not sure we're going to have another one, and now we have more topics, and hopefully that will continue and maybe even grow. So yeah, that's something about the Hindu-Jewish conference. And this year, last year we did in Haifa University. This year we are invited by Tel Aviv University, by these people who Rabbi Meir, Professor Robert Goli. They said, why don't you come and do the conference with us this year? So this year probably will be in Tel Aviv University, not in Haifa. But it's nice, you'll be invited by institutions, people see that it's interesting, why don't you come and we'll facilitate you. It's nice academic development. So we were happy about this invitation and we accepted that. And that's why instead of November, like last year, we'll probably do it in the spring because that's the time which fits them in April 24th.
One last, sorry,
Dating and other things.
one last point I wanted to ask you is, what is the response of your students towards India in general and Hinduism in particular? I mean, those who are attending your class, what is their impressions about?
The state of Indian studies in Israel, in many ways, it's much more developed than here. You have every year about 40 or 50,000 young people going to India. Huge
From Israel.
numbers from Israel.
Yes.
Huge numbers. Many Israelis go to India. They love India. They love the culture. They love the Indian nature.
Excuse me, I want to interrupt you because politically India and Israel were dealing because of the Muslim rules, because the Arab peace meant there was no political relationship. So is it this thing has happened after that only when India opened the relationship with Israel? Is this people have start before they cannot, no Israelis could visit in India, right? Now the Indians could visit Israel. So is it because of that?
If you look at the Indian and Israeli relations, looking at 20th century politics, the biggest supporter of Zionism was Rabindranath Tagore, the national poet, and he was fascinated with Jewish culture, and he was speaking very highly about this brotherhood between the spiritualists. Both he saw it as two spiritual nations trying to establish a spiritual country. With Gandhi, it was more complicated. Basically, Gandhi was trying to appease the Muslim League, and in the politics, he was more pro-Muslim. He had famous Jewish friends, especially in his ashram in South Africa. But when he came to politics, he was trying to please the Muslim League and avoid a petition on that. And in that, of course, he said many things, but the bottom line is that in the politics, India, following Gandhi and Nehru, India became pro-Arab for many years, and the relations were established only officially in '92, not before that. And once it was established officially, I mean, there were Israelis going to India before that. Like I went to India in '86, but everything was more complicated, and the visa was complicated, and you had
They were giving visas in 86. You can use.
yeah. I got a visa, but it was kind of a complicated visa. It was a group visa. You enter as a group, as if it's an organized tour, and you kind
On paper only. No, not stamped on a passport.
It was stamped, but it was all kinds of arrangements which were more complicated. It was like a group visa, and it's as if you're staying together. Of course, once you go to India, everyone goes their way, but it's like as if it's a group, and there are all kinds of arrangements. So that was in '86. Since '92, the relations were open, and very quickly it happened. Very warm relations. Many business people going back and forth. The trade is now about $5 billion US dollars bilateral, and there's a lot. This is the civilian trade. This is before the military trade, which is very known those numbers, and a lot of warmth on a personal level. Jews and Israelis are similar in many ways. Warm, open, expressing emotions, speaking with the hands a little bit sometimes. Sometimes a little cunning. It's also there, but in many ways, the natures are similar. They go together easily, and the warmth builds up very quickly. And Israelis love the Indian experience. I know we had a group of students here from Hong Kong going to India last year. So for the Hong Kong students, the experience, I mean, here everything is electronic, Hong Kong. and to see a cow going in the street. I remember, I mean, they saw some gate which was operated by hand. They were so surprised. Here in Hong Kong, everything is electronic, goes up and down, you know. And India is more physical. You see things operated by hands. The cows working here. So Israelis, they love it. They love this experience. It's natural. It's a little sensual. You go in the market, you taste, you smell, you speak with people. They love this kind of open contact with the people, eating together, speaking, and they enjoy this kind of natural fraternity. For the Israelis, India is great fun. They just love to be there. You can see them staying there in ashrams, and practicing, going barefoot, wearing Indian robes. They enjoy it. They just love it. And even in Israel, there's a whole sub-Indian culture. First of all, there's a lot of yoga practices, and many people study in the universities Indian studies. There's a lot of Sanskrit studies. In Israel.
So
a lot of
came
Sanskrit.
via USA or direct from India?
No, it's
All
direct.
those things. Because yoga and all those things, Sanskrit is coming.
Nowadays,
Israelis, Jews living in USA who came to Israel, they brought it to them, or it's directly coming from India?
Look at ISKCON. ISKCON, Prabhupada went from India to the USA and then it came to Israel. So, I mean, it's India. Prabhupada was Indian, but it did go around the world. But it's a global era. It all comes from all directions. But we also have direct links, not from the USA. Like there's the Ayurvedic studies. So they have a direct link with the Ayurvedic university in Gujarat, I think. All kinds of ties. The bottom line is that you have very warm ties and lots of ties between Israelis and Indians, and I mean, it's mostly Hindus, really. I mean, that's usually where the war. I mean, it's called Indian and Israel, but it's mostly Hindus and Jews, mostly. That's what the fraternity usually is. That's what the warmth is.
So you mean to say Hinduism is not very well known among Israelis? It's not a strange thing. Like I've been living in Hong Kong 30 years. If I ask any Chinese about Hinduism, they're totally blank. They don't know what is India or Hindu culture.
Here in Hong Kong, when I come to teach here, I have to teach the basics. People don't know anything about India. It's kind of really like we have established this. You mentioned that this course of continuing education, where Nirmal Prabhu is teaching. He's one of our teachers. He teaches Ramayana and Mahabharata, one of our classes. So there we really introduce the basics, just and people like it, and it's great. In the university also, the students want to know the basic things, kind of where is India, what's the geography, what is it like. And in Israel, it's much more developed. Indian studies, people study Sanskrit. I mean, who studies Sanskrit here in Hong Kong? Anyone in university? In Israel, you have 2 established departments where people study Sanskrit. Sit down, actually do grammar, serious grammar. I also graduated in the Hebrew University with people studying Sanskrit. Doing elementary Sanskrit and studying Sanskrit, it's hard. Sanskrit is not easy. Sitting down and studying Sanskrit. You see, these are students, young people. They're not studying economy, not business, and not law, but sitting down and studying Sanskrit. I just have now one student. She's a great Sanskrit scholar. Just now I was teaching this summer. I just finished now 2 courses this summer. One course was modern Indian thought, and I was teaching Rammohan Roy and following him Bankim Chandra Chatterjee, Rabindranath Tagore, and Gandhi. That's the 4 Indian thinkers I was teaching. And the other course, I was teaching Bhagavad Gita Rig Veda, Upanishads, short paragraphs, Mahabharata, Yoga Sutra, and Srimad Bhagavatam. I mean, every reading here and there. The students love it. They go so deep into that. It's like a class at a temple. You start reading that, they open their heart. I mean, you read the Gita to the students, they love it in a deep way. Good for the Hindus to know how attractive the Gita is.
I think you have some similarities in Judaism, what we have in Gita. That whatever you do, you don't expect any result out of it. Your duty is to work. I think you have something similarities because my Jewish friend.
This idea of working for out of duty, and not expecting reward, not being inspired by the fruits of action. Yeah. My idea is that this dialogue will hopefully highlight the good parts in both cultures in a way in which they will support each other. Hindus will see Jews learning Gita and say, oh, we also want to learn this, how Gita, it's so good. And Jews, it also helps the Jews appreciate their own culture. In my own class, I have some people who are observing Jews, and they come to study with us because this comparative studies helps them to look at their culture from outside. Like we had a class about Hindu and Jewish, we call it the books, the founding books. So we discussed the Mahabharata, we discussed the Bible, and there are similarities. The Bible is also like the Mahabharata. It's a story. It's itihasa, history with story, narrative. Upanishads, like the Kabbalah, very mystical, very mystical. And Dharma Shastra is like the halacha, the law, various rules to be observed. So it helps the Jewish students to look at their own culture from the Hindu perspective. They enjoyed it very much. They said it was a very good course, and we're expanding this course now. The course is growing. And it's just a course in humanities. I mean, nothing, we don't offer anything, we don't say it's going to help you in business or politically. I mean, sometimes humanities, they become subservient to business. You know, you study humanities and then go and do business. But we're not saying that. We're just doing pure humanities, just for the sake of studying. We're not promising them that they will do good business after that, make a lot of money. No, this is pure humanities, it's theology, comparative studies, studying for the heart, studying for character development, to be better people. Humanities for the sake of humanities.
No occupational benefits. No occupational advantages.
Yeah. We don't promise. We are a little proud, or in a good sense, I hope, that we attract students without any other promising or hinting at other benefits. We say, come to us, study, and that will be studying for the sake of studying, without any, let's say, benefits. Yeah, just study for the heart. And they come and they study, and we're very happy about this course, which is actually now upgrading this term, where we're actually hoping to increase that and develop that further.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor.
धन्यवाद. आप इसमें जो कुछ कह रहे थे?
Just few words I'll say about it. Haifa Day, 23rd September 1918. Great ceremony for the Indian soldiers who fought at Haifa on 23rd September 1918 was during the Great War. It was Ottoman Sultan Abdullah II who gave the Jews the permission to settle down in the area. For example, Tel Aviv is a city which was built after Sultan Abdul Ahmad gave this permission, personal permission, to the Jews. So think twice. This is how it came up. The Indian Army cemetery of the World War in Haifa. The Indian Army troops were deployed throughout the war for the defense of Suez Canal operations in Gallipoli and for the various campaigns in Africa, including that of Kilimanjaro and the Palestine and the Syrian fronts. They participated in the Battle of Jerusalem, Gaza, Megiddo, Sharon, and Haifa. During the battle for Haifa in September 1918, the Indian troops exhibited explanatory cavalry skills and bravery in a successful cavalry charge, which finally culminated in the liberation of Haifa. Captain Aman Singh Bahadur, the father, Joe Singh, were awarded the Indian Order of Merit IOM, and the Captain Anup Singh and Second Lieutenant Sagat Singh were awarded the Military Cross MC as recognition for their bravery in the battle. A two-member delegation of the Indian Army led by Colonel M.S. Jodha, grandson of Captain Aman Singh Bahadur, has specially come from India to attend this ceremony.
So Ishwarji ने थोड़ा briefly इसको बता दिया Haifa Day why we have come.
Galari is Arabic name or Israeli name? Professor, one last word. Galari is Israeli or Arabic name?
It's Tel Aviv.
Tel Aviv is Hebrew name, of course.
Tel means a hill, and Aviv means spring.
Spring.
Yes,
Professor, there's a lot to be said, but this is not right time. But to use the word Indian soldiers is not right. Right word, imperial soldiers. India was not a country at that time. The soldiers were ordered to go, not that they were happily and willing to sacrifice their life. There were no, I've read a little bit of history, there was no other cavalry battalion or anything ready to go, except the British forced upon these battalions to move, and they did a very good job. But to use the word Indian soldiers is not appropriate. The right word to use would be to use imperial soldiers. Because we were under.
Well, I think that basically the very first thing is just mentioned that they were not happy to sacrifice their lives. I think that is not a very correct assessment, because you see, basically, as far as soldiers are concerned, of course, every single battle you have soldiers who are asked to lead, right? During the Kargil war, we have story of Pakistanis who were ordered to do that. But when Indian soldiers challenged them and when sort of went forward, they all escaped, they ran away. So it's not a question. The soldiers' bravery is a very important aspect over here. So as far as the fact that maybe your point is that the soldiers did not go on their own, that's a different story. Okay. At the same time, soldiers, they are only asked to do their job. But we always have the story of brave soldiers and not so brave soldiers. Like we have the Gorkhas, for example, the Nepali Gorkhas. There's just a very small thing I just make a comment over here, the Hindu bravery, for example. There was a British commander of, some British captain who had mentioned that he told his Gorkha soldiers that we have to jump from the helicopter, okay, and go into enemy territory. Okay, they were from the Air Force actually. So he said we have to jump from the helicopter and go in the enemy territory. How many of you are ready? There were about 20 Nepali soldiers over there. How many of you are ready? He asked them. From those 20 soldiers, only 2 raised their hands up. So he told them, what happened? I was thinking that Gorkhas are very brave people. How come only 2 people have raised their hands up? So another person asked. He said, can we, have parachutes? He said, of course you can have parachutes. Then everybody raised their hands up. So those 2 people who raised their hands first, they were ready to jump without parachutes. So this is the British person has mentioned in his memoirs. He has never seen as brave soldiers as the Gorkhas. So of course they are ordered to go. At the same time, you always have to distinguish between soldiers who excel themselves in bravery. So Indian soldiers in Haifa, they could have ran away. There are so many machine gun bullets are being fired from left, right. They were basically, if they are working for money or whatever, they could just run away. But they did not. They chose not to. They chose to die rather than, what do you call it?
No, I want to
If they were just paid employees, then they would have just, like,
I want to add one point here. The British was nothing without Indian soldiers. First World War, Britain won only because of Indian soldiers. Only because of Indian money. Indian money, Indian soldiers. Indian soldiers were servants. Yes, we can call it Imperial Army, but it was we were always Indians as the Hindus coming to attach. We were always faithful. While we were servants, we served our masters faithfully. That's why, so we can call it Imperial, but nevertheless were Indian forces. And as Nimoli mentioned, Indian soldiers never differentiated who their masters were. Once the command given, they will successfully and faithfully deliver it, and that's what they did. It was a suicidal mission to go against charging machine guns on the cavalry and display the cavalry excellent power over there, and that's what they did. So all the wars that Britain won is only because of Indian soldiers.
That's why when they were not sure of Indian soldiers' loyalty, like for example, if you have watched the movie on Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose, for example, over there it's very clearly mentioned when the British were not sure of the loyalty of the Indian soldiers. That's when Clement Attlee said we better leave the country, because they were not sure, because there was a mutiny in the naval barracks, there was a mutiny in the Indian army when Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose had charged into India at Haifa. At that time, when the British were not sure that Indian soldiers can be counted on and to be loyal, that's the moment they chose to leave, because they had no other choice.
Also, there is a good example of Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose when he went to Europe. At that time, Second World War was coming to an end, and the British, in many places, the British army was disbanded. Yeah. Or they were the Indian soldiers were captive of the Japanese or the Germans. So he went and recruited them. Yeah. Actually, they would happily go home, but they joined the army.
If you can watch the movie, the INA lost this whole battle because Japan pulled out. They were bombarded and the supply line was cut. Indian INA soldiers had to back off, otherwise they were charging ahead. The Kolkata was in their reach.
Okay.
Now, so thanks a lot for you. Yeah. So we
Thank you
very
very
much.
much.
Thank you very much, Professor. By the way, his Indian name is Sanskrit name is Ishwar Krishna Das.
Ishwar.
Good to know. Krishna Das.
Ishwar Krishna Das.
We have the
prayer, then we will ask for the next.
You should go and buy this. Wait till you get home.
One million apples and one will come back better.
अच्छा बड़ा था ना लग गया बड़े आप
The demise, it's obituaries.
उधर लाइन पर नहीं है चलिए एक दूसरे के पीछे खड़े हो जाइए थोड़ा लाइन कर दीजिए
तीन में
साथ में करेंगे
साथ में प्रार्थना करें
साथ में संगदक्ष आरंभ संगदक्ष साधना
सर्वमङ्गलमाङ्गल्यं सर्वार्थसाधिकं शरण्यं सर्वभूतानां नमामि मातरम् सच्चिदानन्दरूपाय विश्वमङ्गलहेतवे विश्वधर्मैकमूलाय नमोऽस्तु परमात्मने विश्वधर्मविकासार्थं प्रभो सङ्घटितावयम् शुभामाशिषमस्मभ्यं देहि तत्परिपूर्तये अजयमात्मसामर्थ्यं सुशीलं लोकपूजितं ज्ञानं च देहि विश्वेश देहभागप्रकाशकम् समस्तशोषो नित्यं ज्ञेयस्य समन्वितः तत्साधिकं सूर्यमन्त्रः श्रीरङ्गोज्ज्वलम् विश्वधर्मप्रकाशेन विश्व शांति प्रवर्तके हिंदू संगठनाकार्य देहनिष्ठाश्रासना संघ शक्ति निर्वेद्रियं कृत्वा स्कंदं रक्षणं वर्णं वैभवं प्राप्तं समस्तास्तु तवाशिषा तुदीय पुण्य कार्यस्मिन् विश्व कल्याण साधिके त्याग सेवा प्रत्याशं कायो में पत्तो प्रभु विश्व धर्म की जय भारत माता की जय।
बस प्रणाम 1 2 3। आज की संख्या 16 संघ विक्रम।
I'm thinking here is only the donkey type study. Oh, that one.
बीच में आ रहा था वो।
हाँ ये अच्छा है। अच्छा जल्दी जो वहाँ
अपना ये दूसरा भी आपका दूसरा एक और है ना वो भी आ गया। ये टीचर आपका और भी like you know, like she said, like I cannot even tell you. So like that was last year should be this year. That are the separate activities. Okay.
उसके लगा रखा है चार्जिंग के लिए।
रिकॉर्डिंग भी किया उसने। रिकॉर्डिंग भी हो गया पूरा। साउंड रिकॉर्डिंग किया पूरा।
अच्छा अच्छा।
नमस्तु माविद्विषावहे ओम शांति शांति शांति।
दीजिए प्लेट का वाला है अंदर लिविंग के लिए the parents is directly out. We used to play, but I should play. We used to play. Playing is of the whole body. Everything. Now where he was not Shadi Khan. In my time, my parents told me, my parents told me how to do computer. But you must not be standing up. I also play, you know, and playing and now it's all I don't know, but marble. Give me ऐसे कैसे कोई भी नहीं ऐसे कैसा हुआ
बोल के खुशी को लेके आया और फिर कैसे काम चलेगा?
But after that, yes, I was like, very good. Please give us your progress report.
No
On the
problem.
last meeting you had on the camp. उससे पहले तो आप आए थे, right? उससे पहले we discussed about family camp. You were there. Yeah, we discussed family camp. But you know, camp था वैसे ही आप. हमारे को